All right, let us talk about Marco Minnemann's "My Sister."
Yes.
So, this is his 21st album he's made. So the guy just makes music all the time. Even after his album came out, he put another album out that I haven't listened to yet. So let's
Oh,
go.
when was
Let's
that?
like 2 weeks ago, from this date or a little longer, but it came out very soon after "My Sister." So he
Wait,
just keeps making music.
his own like solo,
Yeah.
his own. Oh, wow. What?
Yeah, with some other guy. Yeah,
Oh, nice. I'll have to check that out.
it's nothing like this album though. This album is a
Yeah.
lot different than his
So
previous
he
work.
really doesn't fucking.
No, because even if he's not working on solo projects, he's working with like another artist
Yeah.
or touring with the Aristocrats or something. So I have no idea. But this album's very experimental indie rock, jazz, of course progressive rock. There's a lot to this album. It's a very meaty album. It's two sides over what, an hour and 46 minutes long. This is a very
Wow.
lengthy album.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can't go in fully with every song, and so we're gonna try to keep it a little more restrained on discussion. So Marco Miniman. So he's worked with Joe Satriani, Pliny, Steven Wilson, um,
Just all
many.
the biggest names in Prague.
Yeah, like there's a handful of names: Paul Gilbert, Guthrie Groven, Mike Keneally, Jordan Rudess of Dream Theater. It's way too many people to count. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's much more that I don't even know about. Um, but yeah, so let's get into this album. It's a mature album. Probably like his most realized album to date. That's his solo project, but it's very quirky and goofy.
Yeah,
Work
both
too.
vocally and instrumentally. It just
Yeah,
has really fun vibe.
yeah. The whole story of the album that Minuteman has said in interviews and in personal bios about the album is that it's about his life in South California with people he's met, and his whole compilation of all these lives in one. And you're definitely gonna realize that with all the guest appearances on this album, which those are all different conversation on themselves, because there's people I never heard of. There's people who you have heard of, like Alex Lifeson of Rush, which is not the first time they worked together. They've worked together on previous work by Minuteman too. But let's get right into the first track of the album, or even the first few songs. So right off the bat, we have "Falling Down" and "Blessed," which, as most of the album, there's a lot of guest vocalists on here that you might not have heard of before. Uh, for "Falling Down," Eva Catherine, one of the two names. I can't get the pronunciation on her first name, but I'm gonna say Eva. She hums of lead vocals on this track, and it's a very strong opening track for the album. It's very
Yeah,
it's a good
it's the
one.
catchiest song of the album. That's for sure.
It's a very digestible album for people who aren't familiar with Minuteman or even like this
Yeah.
style of music, because it's a very indie rock album.
Yeah, it's a good album to show your friends who are sort of into rock, but not
Uh huh.
more technical rock that you and I usually listen to.
Yeah, the vocals in this album are very popish and rockish. In a sense, it's nothing you haven't heard before, but it's not critique. It's more of the instrumentals that are behind those vocals that really are what keep the album to an interesting level, especially on the second track, "Blessed." Um, there's the vocals on the track aren't anything to die over, but Randy Mitstein's vocals are fine enough to get you through the song. But it's really the guitar work and the rest of the musicality that keeps the song um, interesting. The main riff of the song, the melody.
Yeah, like you said with the poppier stuff, I think the first two tracks definitely give off that poppy vibe
Yeah, and like
that like can really like bring a new audience into them.
It's a goofy song, and that's like why you'll be comfortable with this album, is because it never takes itself too seriously, especially Radical Radicals. I couldn't tell you what the hell's going on in this song.
Some sort of conversation. Yeah, Radical Radicals it's a really odd song. It's hard to like. Well, I'd have to bring up Sandwich from his last, or not his last. Yeah, from Shat and Spiel. They both have these like back and forth sort of arguments in these Microsoft Sam-esque voices.
But there's also like in Radical Radicals like actual people talking too. So it's like weird.
Yeah,
it's a weird
yeah,
thing
yeah.
going on. It's just,
especially and the chorus is great once that. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're definitely not gonna show people this who haven't, or play this in a car with people. You're not gonna get friendly reactions. It's absurd. You're not gonna like this song the first time, most likely. You have to listen to this again. But when it gets to the chorus, it's a whole different song.
I think that it's like Radical Radicals, like because it's so silly and goofy, it like gives this album more of a replay value because it keeps you interested with like mixing it up and shit.
Yeah, you find something new to pick at every time. And that's like the biggest strong point of the album is there's a lot of layers to the songs. So you're not going to hear everything the first listen. There's a lot of things that you can pick at to appreciate. And you become more impressed the more you listen to it, because most of this work is done by Minnemann himself. He's on top of the background vocals for most of the songs, even takes the lead vocals, drum work. He does a high portion of the rest of the instruments too. The keyboard, the guitar work, the bass. He's literally all on top of everything. And
oh yeah, the keyboard and the
blows
drums.
Your mind.
Yeah, the keyboard and the drums throughout the album is just so great.
Yeah.
The guitar work, I mean, there's a bunch of different people playing, but it's all great too.
Radical Radicals is a 4-minute song, but I could continue talking about it because there's so many inspirations of like a jazz sound going on with the drums. There's these crazy diminished sounding arpeggios in the chorus. That just,
I got some Mike Keneally vibes from this song.
Yeah, it's very just
for
like,
sure. It's a goofy song, just surrounded by these amazing instrumentals. It's crazy.
On paper, you'd be like, don't fucking write a song like this. Why would you make something like this? Then it's made, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
How did this sound good?
It's like painting The Last Supper, like really well, and then just making Jesus a stick figure. It's like, yeah, I can, like, I'm this talented, but I'm gonna be a little goofy here.
Yeah, I'm
I love it.
Goofball move. So, White Sheets, In the Moonlight, and My Sister continue the A side of the album with a poppy indie sound that the beginning of the record started off with and kind of diverse away from in the middle. So these are more digestible songs that really drive home the point of the lyrics or the vocals are great, but it's really the instruments behind them that just elevate everything to a whole different level.
Yeah, I would say, to touch up on that, I'd say like you would need to listen to In the Moonlight and just listen to how the drums, they're just so well placed, and it just makes that guitar just stick in your ear.
Yeah, the drums on In the Moonlight, they're so like they're emotional, which really is weird to say about drumming, because you don't really get like those like traditional notes you get from other instruments, but you just feel like how they're played, and it works so delicately and like emotionally. It's fantastic. And In the Moonlight has some great acoustic guitar pieces within it that really just make the song much more relaxing and breathtaking. Yeah,
that acoustic guitar with the dreamy vocals, yeah, it's a nice combo.
Yeah, and there's something electric modulators going through the guitar at some points in the song too that just sound like more dreamy. But with that being said, the title track of the album, My Sister, if Radical Radicals was goofy for being a conversation between two robots, I don't know what's weirder than a song that sounds like an incest like between a brother and sister. I was in the car and my girlfriend looks at me and just like, what are we listening? Where are we listening to? because it's weird.
Don't judge me.
Yeah, don't judge me. I like my incest.
Yeah.
It sounds like, I mean, if I'm correct in my memory, some of the people he's met are from like these Californian island tribes. So I feel as though this is like one of the examples of this group of people being close together.
Just consider themselves brothers and sisters.
Yeah, but regardless of that, to a Westerner's ear, to a person who really isn't used to that nativity, it just comes off a little off.
A little incesty.
But that's the first half of the song. Do you get through that? Which is not, it's not bad.
It's not hard to get through. It sounds great.
It sounds immaculate. It's a very feel-good song. Like it's like a song you imagine listening to while like walking through like a morning fresh air.
Or kissing your sister.
But the second half of that track is some fantastic conclusion to disc 1.
Worlds collide. You're like my sister, nobody would stop you.
With like a very inspired guitar melody.
Who's it remind you of? Yeah. Who's it remind you of?
Plenty. Plenty. Joe Satriani, Guthrie Govan, all the people he's worked with plenty over in the past, and you could, especially the Joe Satriani influence. He on Joe Satriani's album Shockwave Supernova. Marco Minnemann took role of the drum work during the album and the tours, so he had a lot of time to take in the influences from Satriani.
Yeah, I was gonna say plenty for sure. The guitar on the end of that just sounds so much like it.
Yeah, there's
which isn't a complaint. Plenty's great.
No. Anytime you listen to
if you're gonna if you're gonna sound like somebody, might as well make it him.
It's very recognizable because in a Plenty lick or phrase, you get like those really fast erratic notes being played at once, and those influences are definitely taken on this little solo. So with that, let's talk about disc 2. This is where the problems of the album start to take place.
Yeah, it's not nearly. It doesn't have the substance that the first one had. I mean, it's got some nice instrumentals sprinkled in, but definitely side 1 is the better side.
Yeah, it's a more prominent side that you're gonna want to listen to disc 2 because of listening to disc 1. This is where the problems start to get noticed. The structure is a little off. The length is ridiculous. It's almost a 2-hour-long album. Now, it's not. You can argue, more music. That's great. It's fun to listen to. Throw it on playlist. But if you're listening to this album through an entire listen, there's a lot that you can just be like, this does not need to be here. Another thing that I would say, Marco's vocal range is, I would say, lackluster in most points. He's not a bad vocalist. It's a serviceable performance, but if he puts more work into that aspect, it could take the album to like a whole different level. It's like in a Steven Wilson vibe, where Steven Wilson can do like similar things of musicality that Marco can do, but Marco's vocal range isn't as strong.
Yeah.
There's only one track on this album that I would say Marco has a good performance, and we'll talk about that. Yeah, vocal performance. Performance. Now, the entire album is a great performance by Minnemann, but let's talk about disc 2 real quick. So, what do you remember? What were some songs that caught your eye in disc 2, Christian?
Well, obviously Lover's Calling, but the first one that caught my attention was Quantize Me.
He takes these rhythms and works with them in a way to make his vocals sound more than they could have been if it was traditional structure. But he tries like these different things within the vocal harmonies that just sound just awesome. They sound cool. So Quantize Me also has some really good drum work within it.
Oh yeah, the drum and keyboards.
The drums, the keyboards, the drum work just pops. Like you can feel the drums being like just slammed.
Lover's Calling is probably my favorite song from the album. It's got this sort of dreamy vocals like In the Moonlight that we heard earlier on the album. And then yeah, it's just a very nice laid back song compared especially after you hear Quantize Me. It's just nice and laid back.
It feels like a part 2 to In the Moonlight.
Yeah. Like if you didn't get enough of In the Moonlight, Lover's Calling's there for you. And then of course the badass guitar.
Oh yeah, this is Alex Lifeson's solo of the album. That takes place near the end of the track. You get what you expect. It's nothing like mind blowing, but it adds the song, and you're not gonna be disappointed by it.
We should play a clip from that.
Yeah, here's an example of what we're talking about. This song. This is another one of those songs that you can just show somebody to, like in the car.
Oh yeah, if they don't like this, they don't like music.
It's a beautiful piece. To wrap it up, I mean, it's a great album. It's really good.
Yeah,
it's a fun listen. If you can get to the B side, at least listen to the first side, and that's more than enough to get.
Check out Lover's Calling at least if you're not going to listen to the B side.
Yeah.
Quantize Me.
Yeah, Quantize Me. I don't want to diminish the second disc. I mean.
No, it's got some nice instrumentals. Yeah. It's just compared to the first side, it's not as stacked.
Yeah. Shuttle is a really cool bass-driven song, like a 2-minute song. Drum for Life is another like instrumental piece, which keeps like momentum throughout the album. It's fun. If I really want to point at the songs that didn't really do much, Car. I mean, it's a very long song. It didn't need to be there, but it's.
I don't even remember it.
Yeah. Cry. Tell me these songs if you remember any of them.
It's been a while though. It's not too fair.
I think it's
like
fair.
3 weeks.
I think it's fair. Angels Crossing the Line.
I remember seeing it, but I don't remember anything from it.
How about Ferry?
Oh yeah, is that one of the instrumental?
I think it might be instrumental. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But then the final track of the album. What's In For You?
No.
No, you thinking the album ended with Lover's Calling.
Ended with Lover's Calling.
The album ended with Lover's Calling. But it's like I said. Check this album out. It's worth a listen. It's a fun album. You're gonna get something out of it, especially if you have a playlist. You throw some of these songs onto it, and it's a good time.
Yeah, out of all the bad things we've said about it, this is still like one of the top 2 or 3 albums of the year for me.
Yeah, it's a very enjoyable album. You could pick at this album for what didn't work. You pick at this album for what
it's just easier to it's easier to pick up.
Yeah,
the bad stuff because how quirky it is.
Yeah, the imperfection of the album is what makes the album good. It has a humility to it. But with that being said, Christian, what would you recommend to somebody who enjoyed this album?
I would recommend Mike Keneally, especially if you like the song Radical Radicals. Like I said earlier, it's just like fun, really goofy lyrics mixed in with some badass instrumentals. Really controlled chaos, sort of. I think that's the best way to describe.
Yeah.
Radical Radicals and Mike Keneally. Check out the album Hat.
I have 2 recommendations. So, first one, if you like the atmosphere set up on some of these songs, the dreamy sound, if you haven't listened to it already, The End of Everything by Plenty.
Okay, yeah.
That one, if I'm correct, has Marco Minnemann on drums again. So it's very something familiar.
Yeah.
And then Plenty's work with the keyboard and the guitar, it's very similar to some of the songs in this album, so you'll feel right at home. But there's also a whole element that you haven't heard in this album that makes that album original. So the second recommendation would be Steven Wilson's 2016 release To The Bone. You'll be very at home with the pop elements and the thematical elements that you found on here. But to where this one was more goofy and lighthearted. To the Bone is more of a politically and emotionally driven album, but
it's more to the bone.
Yeah, as the title suggests. But you'll definitely feel comfortable with the mixing and the musicianship on the album.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation. I would also suggest Schattenspiel if you haven't listened to that by Marco Minnemann.
Schattenspiel, yeah. If you want to go through more of Marco Minnemann, or his release with Joe Satriani.
You say it's Shockwave Supernova?
No, not that one.
Oh, okay, yeah. It starts with a B.
Borrego.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Check out that song Thunderstorms from that.
Ooh, yeah.
It makes his drums sound like thunder. That's awesome.
It's badass. You can check the songs out on our community playlist in the link below on Spotify. And that's about it. We're out.